guys, welcome to Punky's World. I don't really have a place to put scrapbooking pages, so I'm gonna wait on that until I have a chance to go to the Blessing Barn and get a scrapbook for $5. um, yeah. So what I want to do is kind of a preview of the Iron Claw. Since I'm going to see the movie, I thought I would do a video that sort of previewed the situation without giving away the movie, because obviously I haven't seen it yet. For those of you not familiar with the story, the Von Erichs, or the Atkinson family, were the penultimate wrestling family. They were on top of the world. Dad started out as a heel, soon became a popular babyface. As Fritz Von Erich. His real name was Jack Atkinson. And he and his wife Doris had 6 sons altogether. Their youngest son, their oldest son died at the age of 6. He was electrocuted, fell in the water, and drowned. It was pretty horrific. Soon after, the family moved back to Texas. This was up in upstate New York, where they were living. And because wrestling families moved around, you know. So that was Jack Jr. Then they had, Kevin was a toddler when that happened, but Kevin has vague memories. Kevin Ross, whose son is Ross. They then had David. They then had Carrie Jean. They then had Michael. And they had Chris. Chris has been omitted from the movie. Let me tell you a little bit about Chris. Chris had asthma, and he had to take inhaled corticosteroids as well as prednisone pills throughout his life, which stunted his growth, to treat his asthma. So, and his bones were very brittle due to all the steroids. He had very poor bone density, and his bones would break very easily. But he wanted to wrestle like his brothers. Yeah, that didn't work out so well. And he ended his own life at a very young age. He was in his 20s. He's the closest in age to me. For reference, he's only like 4 years older than me. I think the oldest is about 10 years older than me, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe 12. Well, let's figure it out. 13. Kevin's 13 years older than I am. Kevin is the only one of the boys that was thought of yet when the oldest one died. I don't know whether they're going to include that or not in the movie. I know Chris is not included. So, Kevin, David, and Carrie became this formidable wrestling trio under their dad's promotion, World Class Championship Wrestling, which is out of the Dallas-Fort Worth area. But they became a worldwide phenomenon because of syndication. Because Fritz was able to get syndication everywhere, even up here. And so they were able to tour a little bit up here. I know my uncle saw them live, and I know other people who saw them at one of the schools that I went to. I never got to see them, but I remember when my uncle went to see them. I can't remember if he took the boys or not. I don't think so, because I think he went with one of his buddies. So his buddy got the tickets. But I guess it was an awesome show. Let's have to see if he remembers. I gotta call him today. At any rate. Oh, happy birthday, Penny Teresa, from yesterday. Excuse me. And they started wrestling, one by one, and developing reputations for not being the brightest bulbs in the closet. I'm not saying that to be mean. I'm saying that because if you ask any wrestler who worked with them or who knew them well in that time frame, they will tell you that they had trouble finding buildings. They had issues in matches sometimes, mostly Carrie, from what I understand. Kevin has PCS, which is called post-concussion syndrome, and he actually almost died. He had a stroke backstage, and Tommy Rogers actually did CPR and saved his life. God rest Tommy's soul now. But Tommy was fully certified. And it was in the wrestling magazines. But it's also been verified other ways that Tommy actually saved his life. So, Kevin's brain isn't well now, and you can tell when he talks sometimes he has to really think about it, so it's a little slower. A lot of wrestlers of his age group are like that, and older. I say that because he's 62, I believe, and in 1986, 86, 85, 86. Um, David passed away from gastroenteritis. Now, there has been controversy as to what he really died from. Was he using drugs? Um, because it's been said that Frank Goodish, aka Bruiser Brody, went in and cleaned up any illicit situation before they called for help. He's not here to tell us because he was murdered, but I don't know if they'll go into that or not. I'm curious to see what they go into. I'm going to get into a little bit of controversy regarding characters in the movie and not getting the real people's okay in a little bit. But anyway, they and that started making things fall apart. And it was after that it was between Kerry and Kevin who was going to become world champion, the NWA champion, because they were connected to the NWA, which they did disconnect from, which is probably the start of the downfall of World Class. And I'll explain that in a moment. Who would become the champion in place of David, because David was set to become the champion when he came back from the tour of Japan where he died. He was going to be the NWA champion. The board of directors was unanimous on that. They wanted David Von Erich, which makes sense because David had the best promo. David was just jaw-droppingly incredible in the ring, hugely popular, all of those things. It made sense. And I think it was well earned and well deserved. In my personal opinion, I have always believed that between Kevin and Kerry, it should have been Kevin. That's just my opinion. But they wanted the modern day warrior, the big, huge, muscular dude with the long, curly locks. You know? That's what they wanted their champion to look like. But Kerry was a mess. And therefore, he went on a tour that he came back and they immediately gave the title back to Flair because Kerry was a mess. And everybody would tell you that. And there was no way Kerry could carry the title. I think Kevin would have done a much better job. He could have been a champion longer. These are just my opinions, though. And I have always thought that it should have been Kevin. Because the choice was between the two, obviously. I think Kevin was a better overall wrestler than Kerry. I think Kevin had his head on straighter than Kerry. Kevin looked great. He was way better looking than Kerry. Had, a good body. He wasn't ginormous, but he was in shape. His promos were definitely better than Kerry's. I just think if it couldn't be David, it should have been Kevin. Again, these are my opinions. IMO, in my opinion. Or I am HO, in my humble opinion. Or maybe not so humble. Can you tell Kevin's always been my favorite? He has been. He's always been my favorite. I was afraid of David when I was a kid because I remember his match with Ric Flair. That was what made them decide he was going to be champion. I believe the match ended in a draw, like an hour time limit draw. They call it Broadway. And he put the claw on Flair, and Flair was bleeding everywhere, and it scared the crap out of me. I was like 5 years old. So, no, maybe 6 or 7. So it was scary at any rate. No, I had to be older than that because remember Kevin's 13 years older than me, so that would have made him 20. But they started. That doesn't make sense. I gotta have my math wrong. Anyway, Kevin's gotta be older than that. And then David's a couple years younger than Kevin, then Gary's a couple years younger than David, and Mike was a couple years, and so on and so forth. But Chris was like 4 years older than me. That I do know. And he was a lot younger than the others. So, at any rate, oh, power is at 30%. Hold on. All right, I'm back. After changing your battery. Pull that off. So anyway, I was telling you Kevin's my favorite. And I was telling you about David scaring the crap out of me. And I didn't know at the time he passed away that he passed away, or at least didn't remember it. I should have remembered I was 12 when he passed away. Okay, that's how I can figure it out. I was 12 when he passed away and he was 25. So David was 13 years older than me. So Kevin's about 15 years older than me. That makes sense. So anyway, so David was 25 years old. And there was a girl, and they have an opportunity for a really good soundtrack, actually. Because David's song was Yellow Rose of Texas. There's a yellow rose in Texas, I'm going home to see. No, actually, that wasn't his song. Well, it was one of them, I think. But his main song was Texas When I Die by Tanya Tucker. And so they could use that on the soundtrack. They could use Yellow Rose of Texas because that's what he was known as. And Heaven Needed a Champion. Hopefully, that song will be in there at the David Von Erich Memorial Champions, where his brother won the title. A young teenage girl from the area, this was a Texas stadium in Dallas, actually sang that song. Let me see if I can find it, the actual video of it. Hopefully I won't get in trouble for copyrighted content. I don't think it's copyrighted. But you're allowed to play a little bit, so. Oh, I don't want to search my channel. Where am I going? Oops. Can I go home? Home. Where am I going? Hold on. There we go. Okay. Champion, here it is. Okay. Okay, it was 1985 when he died. It was written by Glenn Goza.
Isaacson is the trusted name in solar. We believe in
get
honesty
through
and
ad.
integrity. We strive.
Okay.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce to you one of the great stars of the Johnny High Musical Review in Fort Worth, Texas. She's only 12 years old but has a tremendous talent, and she's here to introduce to you the brand new song written in memory of the great David Von Erich, entitled Heaven Needed a Champion. Her name is Miss Jill Lloyd. Jill?
She was 12. So she's about the same age as me. Wow. Keep in mind this is old footage, so.
You wore the family name with pride, boldly went forward. It's a thing a lesser man might not have ever done. A tornado from the Texas plains, you came and changed our lives. Now you're gone. With the Lone Star State and blazing on your battle toss, proclaiming you a native son with strength and love and pride. A morning star that shines for one brief moment in eternity, and all too soon God called you to His side. Heaven needed a champion. That's why I need you. Heaven needed a champion. But God knows we need you. Heaven needed a champion.
You know, I think if they play that at the movie,
That's why He took you.
and someone that can sing it like she did, I think there won't be a dry eye in the theater. Guaranteed.
But God knows we need you. Now the arena is dark and empty, with one single blazing shining down on the ring. It's like the eternal light that they speak of, that they use to preserve a memory. On a Sunday, that light that shines will lose its brilliance, and the songs we sing will all be forgotten too. But even then, the memory of David Von Erich will be fresh and sweet and ever new. Heaven needed a champion.
I was 11 because it was 1985 when they did this. He died in 84. I was 10 when he died. So he was 15 years old. She was a year older than me, which is crazy. Needed a champion. Like you. Matthew Van S. I would like to thank you for your video, and I will be linking it in the description of this video. Knows we need to choose.
Now and forever, the memory of David Von Erich will be fresh and sweet and ever new. Thank you.
Thank you, Jill. Now to everyone that would like to buy a record, Heaven Needed a Champion. It's on sale at 6 convenient locations throughout the stadium and on television. If you'd like to buy a copy, send $5 check, money order, cash to Temple Baptist Church, Louisville, Texas, 75.
That was the Von Erich's church, by the way. Let me go back to my studio. There we go. Okay. Hopefully I won't get in trouble for that. If it disappears from the video, you'll know that I had to remove it. But it shouldn't, because it's on YouTube. And it's not copyrighted material. It was sold by the church. The funny thing is, I clearly remember that, so I don't know why I didn't remember. Anyway, I clearly remember that. And I clearly remember, even though they clearly said she was 12, for some reason in my head I remember thinking she was like 17. I mean, she was only a year older than I was at the time. I was 11. So David died in 1984 at the age of 25. In 1984 I was 10. So that means he was 15 years older than I am, which means Kevin's about 17 years older than I am, which makes more sense mathematically with when they started wrestling. But anyway, then we move on to Kerry. As mentioned, Kerry had some problems. They were drug related. Kerry also had a motorcycle accident where he lost his foot. And he wrestled with a prosthetic, but he refused to let it be known that he wrestled with a prosthetic. And Kevin, as the movie was coming out, and it will premiere on the 22nd, by the way, of December 2023, depending on when you're watching this, and it will be streaming on HBO Max. That's who A24, the film company, has their streaming contract with. It's just been announced. Anyway, Kevin took much pride in the fact that his brother wrestled with a prosthesis, but his brother didn't want anybody to know. He felt it was a weakness. It wasn't. It was a strength. I mean, what a difference Kerry could have made for other athletes. I can't remember his name, but there was a young man who lost a leg to cancer in childhood and wrestled with a prosthetic. He was incredible. Roddy worked with him, not against him. Helping him out because he was just starting out. Kid was incredible. And the things he could do on one leg if his leg fell off or, it accidentally came off. Which at one point Roddy found himself holding the leg. So, it was all planned, obviously. And even if Kerry didn't do that, even if he just said, look, I'm wrestling with a prosthetic, you can too. Kerry's influence would have made a huge difference for that young man and many other people to come. And World Class would have been accepting more so of that than maybe other companies, because World Class had a blind wrestler. And I believe at some point there was a deaf wrestler, but I know World Class had a blind wrestler. He was, of course, a babyface, which means a good guy. And the fans would, make noise and stuff and let him know where his opponent was and stuff. And I went back and looked to see if the whole idea that he was blind was a storyline. It wasn't. He was actually blind. It was not storyline. He was blind. And, but he had been an amateur wrestler, I guess, and he was a great wrestler, and they you know, were very open to that. And I think, but Kerry at that point was wrestling for the World Wrestling Federation, and I'm not sure how they would have felt about that. So I can see why he might have kept it. And Roddy Piper talks about, he was friends with Kerry, and he talks about them smoking pot, and at one point standing on the ledge outside their hotel room, or one of their hotel rooms, and they're way many floors up, and the window closed, and they couldn't get back in. And a couple of the wrestlers, I think one of them was Kurt Hennig and maybe Bret Hart, came and yanked them back in. What are you doing? Like, are you two nuts? What do you mean, what are we doing? You know, and we're just hanging out. Yeah, you're high, 15 floors above the ground, guys. You know, that kind of thing, which they're probably not good in the movie, but just a little anecdote from Roddy. And so yeah, Kevin was highly addicted to pain medication, and it could have been from after his foot. I don't know, but I do know that it's not good. In that he was headed to jail when he died because he had forged prescriptions, and he was headed to jail, and he knew that, and he didn't want to bring shame to his family, I guess, or any more shame than he already had for these problems. So he shot himself in the chest. It was after he died that the fact that he wore a prosthetic came out. I think. What happened was he had had hours and hours and hours of microsurgery to reattach the foot after the motorcycle accident. And being on all sorts of meds, he got up out of his hospital bed. This is according to Kevin. And he was confused. And he was walking around. I guess he wanted to go to the bathroom. I don't know. Kevin wasn't sure either. But that's what he assumed. I mean, why else would you be up walking around? And all of that microsurgery just crushed. And they had to remove the foot. So, but I went in the wrong order because the next one to die was actually Mike after Kevin. I mean, yeah, Kevin. Kevin's the only one alive. After David, Mike died. David died in 84, Mike died in 87. Kerry didn't die till 93. Mike was... he was an okay wrestler. He couldn't cut a promo. Mike did not come across as very bright. I'm not saying that to be mean. I'm saying that as, what's the word? An observation. Looking at it as an adult. Mike was small, and he was never able to. He was supposed to come in and take David's spot. That wasn't happening. And he knew that. He knew he couldn't take David's spot. Good grief. Nobody could. David was bigger than life. David was also, even though David wasn't hugely muscular, David was a big man. David was the closest to his father's size, maybe even a little bit taller. He was, had huge hands, was known to be able to palm a basketball. David's big, strong, Texas Bull, you know. Yeah, Mike was not. And Mike knew this. Mike had a drug problem, probably self-medicating some depression and feelings of inadequacy, which that is not so much an observation as they have said he felt inadequate to his brothers. And one night, he went to a park somewhere in Dallas, or the Dallas area, maybe Lake Dallas, and he climbed into his sleeping bag. He took an astronomical number of a tranquilizer called Placidil and ended his life. He was missing for a while, and there were big searches. I remember that. Of course, I was 13. It was 1987. There's probably quite a bit of news out of Dallas when Mike was missing for the couple of days that he was missing before they found him. And then we get to Kerry. I did that in reverse order, sorry. And after Kerry, well, right before Kerry, they brought Chris in, even though Chris, and they all knew Chris couldn't wrestle. They all knew it. His bones were too brittle. Dad brought him in anyway because it was all Chris wanted to do. He trained with Chris Adams, and he worked a few matches, but yeah, he was never going to be a Von Erich, so to speak, and he knew it, and he couldn't take it, and he shot himself in the head. As a matter of fact, Kevin found him, and it was pretty awful for Kevin, and I think that's why they didn't include it, because it was the most traumatizing for him, because it was his baby brother, and he literally felt the hole in his brother's head, and he's described this and his emotions, and I think that's why they left it out for Kevin and for his well-being. Kevin has said because he got married, and Carrie was married and had kids too, but David was married, but they didn't settle down the way Kevin did. For Kevin, the wrestling was a job, his family was his priority. He married his beautiful wife Pam, who they've been married for over 40 years now. Well over 40 years, I think. And he, I believe they're married in the early 80s. Anyway, and I believe they were like college sweethearts or something. And they had 4 children, 2 daughters, 2 sons. Their 2 sons, Ross and Marshall, wrestle. And his thing was, I wrestle, I go home. I'd be a husband, I'd be a dad. And because he had that firmness in his foundation, he feels that's what kept him straight. That's what kept him alive, you know? He didn't have a problem with drugs. He didn't go out and party. He said, I wasn't a partier. He said, even though, yes, Carrie was married and whatnot, Carrie was still a partier. I was not a partier. And maybe that just wasn't in Kevin, you know? But he had a family, and that was the important thing to him. And he credits his wife Pam and his children, of course his faith in God, with him being alive. So, Mom and Dad have both passed away. Dad died of brain and lung cancer. At the age of 79. Mom died a couple years before Dad. They had divorced after all their boys were dying off. And Mom got pissed. You pushed him too hard. and there is a scene in the movie that they show in the previews where Fritz actually, they're all sitting at the dinner table, and Fritz actually says, my favorites are Carrie, David, Kevin, then Mike, but those rankings can always change. What? WTF? Seriously? Dude, check yourself. When I saw that, I was just like, and this is, most of this, what you're going to see in this movie, comes from records, but also comes from Kevin. So, it's like, why would you rank your children? Seriously? I don't understand that. So that's my preview. Now, what do I expect from the movie? I don't know. And I did want to mention the controversy. Michael Hayes was a little bit upset because they didn't contact him when they had someone play him. He's like, but he's too old to play himself. I mean, sorry, Michael. Just to see things out and to see how it played out and whatever. Because the Von Erichs and the Freebirds were the big thing, and nobody else seemed to care. Ric Flair didn't seem to care. The Rhodes family didn't seem to care, so. Hopefully, one of the things I'm hoping for is that, now it looks like it's a lot of their life and not just wrestling saturated. I'm hoping that in locker room moments, if they have them, that they show the other wrestlers as real people. Even if it's just Bruiser Brody walking into the locker room and Kevin saying, hey Frank, just so you get the idea that these are real people beyond what they do in the ring. And I can't wait to see it. And I'm seeing it on premiere day. Thank you, Renee. And thank you guys for watching. God bless you. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Over here on the side, I'm going to put a picture of Fritz and the boys. That's why I've been sitting off to the side, so that I could slide it over onto the side here. I might make a poster, actually. With a picture or pictures, if I can't find a picture of all of them together. I don't think there is a picture of all of them together, because Chris wasn't in the picture until after David died. So I'll probably have to put their pictures together into a collage and do it that way. But I like how the new poster maker makes them long so they can slide to the side. Instead of having to squeeze into a square, they can slide to the side. You'll see that in December's posters. This is the first month I've used exclusively the new poster maker. So anyway, thank you so much for joining me. God bless you and have a wonderful rest of your day. Mwah. Please subscribe. We're trying to make 100 by Christmas. Whoa. And I think we can do it. Bye, guys. Oh, not only will I link that video, I will also link a couple of other videos of Von Erich interest, including the trailer for the movie. So, check that out. Bye, guys. Mwah.